You're now the host.
This meeting is being recorded.
All right, here's my ID and my one-sided note card.
Hi, my name's Troy. I'm 29 years old.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm 22.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm 62.
I am George and I'm 30.
Hey, I'm Alex and I'm 27.
Thank you. Okay, if you could start that timer, Kristen, let me know when you go.
3, 2, 1, go.
So you notice one of your houseplants is looking a little sad lately. The soil is a bit compact, you're having to water it more often, and you notice some roots popping out at the top or even the bottom of the pot. Well, lucky for your plant, I've got a solution for it. Today I'll be teaching you how to properly repot a houseplant. Over the past few years, I've been caring for houseplants as my main hobby. I've learned a lot through trial and error, but I've also done a lot of research on repotting, propagation, and overall plant care. The reason you need to repot, according to the Washington Post garden columnist Adrian Higgins, is that we hold them in artificially constrained environments. See, in the wild, plants grow on the jungle floor where their roots can spread wherever they want to. So when a plant has overgrown roots, it's time to uppot it. A good rule of thumb too is when you take it out of the pot and you see a bunch of visible roots, you know that it kind of wants like new soil or a bigger pot. So the best time to do this is typically in the spring, which is the growing season. This is because the plant will start pushing out new growth after the cold winter months. So before you get repotting, you'll need 4 materials and you'll need to follow 5 easy steps. First, we'll start by gathering your plant, some potting soil, some water, and a new pot. I typically recommend doing a pot about 2 inches larger than its original one. This one's a 4-inch pot right here, and I will be transplanting it to this 6-inch pot. You'll also want to make sure there are some drainage holes in the bottom. According to Amanda from Plantarina, this will prevent root rot. Root rot happens when there's stagnant water down in the bottom of the pot, and this can be pretty detrimental to your plant's health. So if you go on to the next slide, you'll see the first step is to take the plant out of its pot. You want to hold it at the base of the plant while you're squeezing the pot, slowly releasing the root structure. And as you move on to the next slide, you can see that the next step will be to tease the roots away from that main cluster. Doing so will help them just grow into that new soil quicker. And you want to be fairly gentle, but don't be afraid to be kind of firm with it because the plant will bounce back pretty quickly. As we move to the next slide for step 3, you'll want to add some soil to the new container. How much you add really just depends on how far you want it to sit up in the pot. According to the Still, a popular plant blog, they suggest putting it kind of like centered in the pot, but also not too low, not too high. You want the roots buried, but you don't want to cover too much of the stem structure. So moving on to the next slide, your plant is now ready to go into its new pot. So with one hand, you'll want to position it into the pot and make sure you don't need any extra soil in the bottom. Add a little bit more. So as you position it with one hand, you'll then take your other hand and fill it up with soil. So as you're doing this, you also want to make sure that you're kind of pressing the new soil that you're adding down into it to make sure there's no extra like air pockets down in there. According to Moon Valley Nursery, they explain that air pockets will prevent water from traveling to the actual soil. So if the soil isn't getting water, your plant won't be getting any water. And for the last step, you can click on to the next slide. And you'll see that now all you have to do is water your plants. Every time you water, you want to make sure you are completely saturating that soil. You want to make sure every single root gets some water on it. Another important factor when you are watering is to make sure it is dripping out completely. A good rule of thumb, it takes a minute, but a good rule of thumb is like 1 drop per 2 minutes. And after that, you have completed repotting your plant. So while caring for and maintaining plants can be overwhelming and somewhat mysterious to people, the best thing you can do is try. Get dirty, do some research, and just keep trying. You honestly may kill a few plants. It's just part of the hobby. All gardeners are learning as they go, and that's what makes this hobby so rewarding. In the words of the famous gardener, Janet Kilburn Phillips, there are no gardening mistakes, just experiments. All right, and if anyone has any questions,
I have one.
go ahead.
What kind of soil do you use?
So
for
this
repotting?
soil is actually my favorite kind. It's got a mix of like all-purpose potting mix that you can get from like Home Depot. It's got some orchid bark, sphagnum moss, a lot of perlite. Perlite will mostly help with the drainage of the plant. And sometimes I like to add like other types of moss to like the top part of the plant too.
Okay.
All right. What are some good alternatives to soil?
I like to use sphagnum moss strictly a lot, mostly because it retains a lot of moisture and it allows for the roots to grow pretty quickly. But honestly, a lot of people don't like using that long term because you have to fertilize more often and do more work in that regard.
All right, cool.
What is your favorite type of pot to use?
My favorite type of pot, I would have to say ones with the drainage holes or terracotta, mostly because they really help with the drainage again.
Okay.
How often do you water your plants?
Right now, it really depends on what plants I've got. So this one specifically, I maybe water it every 2 weeks. Honestly, most of my plants, I water them probably every 2 weeks or once a month even. The higher maintenance ones that require a little higher humidity and a little more attention, those I typically water like once a week. But it just depends.
Do you have any succulents?
I am not that great at succulents, but the succulents that I do have, I keep them outside. So I let the rainwater take care of that. But I do love succulents.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
How often do you wait till you have to repot a new plant?
Really, I just let the plant tell me. Like I was saying, you'll see a lot of those roots popping out of the top, or a lot of the times they'll be growing out the bottom of the pot too. So when that's starting to happen, and like I mentioned in the beginning, sometimes you'll notice it needs water more often. Those are all really good signs saying that you need to repot it, and it's asking for like fresh soil or a bigger pot.
If you
Okay.
don't up pot a plant and it gets root bound, will it die or does it just not grow?
I think it depends on the plant. I'm not completely sure. I've put off repotting a lot of times, just being so busy and whatnot. But I currently have not killed a plant due to not uppotting it. But I want to say in most cases it would just stunt the growth of the plant. So I think the smaller plants, it's a little more detrimental to their health. But like this big plant down here, if I didn't repot this for like years, it would probably just keep growing.
Gotcha.
So it just depends.
All right, cool.
Any other questions? Awesome. Thank you guys
Perfect.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Well
teaching
done.
us.
Thank you.
Did you end the recording?